Wars throughout history have taken many forms. Some fair, some unjust, some swift and decisive, others long and brutal. Today, we're taking a look at some of the most miraculous outcomes in war, where despite overwhelming odds, the underdogs emerged victorious. Our first story takes place in the Arabian Peninsula in the year 629 AD, during the early Islamic conquests. The Battle of Mu'tah was fought between the Rashidun Caliphate and the Byzantine Empire, assisted by Ghassanid vassals. The battle took place near the village of Mu'tah in modern-day Jordan, east of the Jordan River. The Muslim force consisted of a measly 3,000 soldiers, while estimates of the Byzantine army ranged from 30,000 to 100,000 soldiers, with 100,000 likely being an over-exaggeration by early Muslim historians. They've never seen a large army before, so it's likely. The battle was triggered by the murder of a Muslim envoy by a Ghassanid chief, which is considered a serious offense in Arab diplomatic customs. The Muslim army, led initially by Zayd ibn Haritha, advanced towards Musharrif, but then withdrew to Mu'tah. Upon engagement, Zayd was killed, followed by the next two, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib and Abdullah ibn Rawaha. Leadership then fell onto Khalid ibn al-Walid, who was known as one of, if not the greatest military tactician in the world. Realizing he was vastly outnumbered, he executed a masterful retreat strategy. Firstly, he reorganized his troops to restore morale. Then, under the cover of night, he shifted his army, moving the rear ranks to the front, making an illusion that fresh reinforcements have arrived. After that, he ordered the army to carry multiple different flags and banners, furthering the illusion of a larger army and confusing the Byzantines. Finally, he ordered a strong counterattack, forcing the Byzantines to hesitate before disengaging. While the battle ended without territorial gain, the Muslim army successfully retreated with minimal losses compared to the massive Byzantine force. Khalid's tactical genius earned him the title, the Sword of Allah. Sadly, they weren't able to take retribution on the Ghassanid chief, which was the only reason they were there in the first place. Next, we fast forward over 1,000 years to 1788 AD, during the Austro-Turkish War, in the Battle of Caransebes. What makes this battle unique, you may ask? Well, one side, which were the Austrians, had 100,000 troops, while the other side, which were the Ottomans, had 0. Yes, 0. The Austrian army had set up camp near Caransebes, in modern-day Romania, near the Timus River, preparing to engage the advancing Ottoman force. The Austrian vanguard crossed the Timus River to scout for Ottomans, but instead they found a group of local Romanians selling schnapps, a heavy alcoholic beverage. The wary soldiers bought the schnapps and started drinking heavily. Soon, the Austrian infantrymen arrived and demanded their share. The drunken vanguard refused, leading to a heated argument, with the drunken vanguard, for some reason, fortifying the barrels of schnapps. Never knew alcohol was that important. Well, in all the chaos, a singular shot was shot, sparking an all-out brawl between the Austrian vanguard and the Austrian infantrymen, who in their drunken state mistook each other for Ottomans. To make matters worse, Romanian officers nearby shouted, "Turkey, Turkey," meaning Turks, Turks, thinking that the Ottomans had arrived. causing panic and a retreat of both forces. Then, nearby German officers shouted, "Halt! Halt!" which non-German speaking soldiers mistook as Allah, Allah, further convincing them that the Ottomans were attacking. A lot of the army spoke many different languages, so that's why that happened. After all of that, the general of artillery, seeing an influx of soldiers rushing back into camp, thought that an Ottoman cavalry charge was underway. So, he ordered artillery fire on his own troops. By the time the real Ottomans had arrived, 2 days later, they found an abandoned battlefield littered with dead and wounded soldiers. The Austrians had defeated themselves without the Ottomans firing a single shot. This remains as one of history's worst military blunders, and perhaps the worst case of friendly fire of all time. Never know, imagine killing each other over alcohol. Finally, we moved to the Korean War in 1951, during the Chinese Spring Offensive. The Battle of Kapyong took place in the Kapyong Valley, a vital valley along the approach to Seoul, South Korea's capital. The UN forces, numbering just 2,000 men, faced a massive Chinese force of 20,000 men. Defending Kapyong were the 3rd Battalion of the Royal Australian Regiment, in short, the 3rd War, and the 2nd Battalion of Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, in short, the 2nd PPCLI. These two battalions were backed by American mortar teams, New Zealand artillery, and a small group of British tanks and soldiers. The battle unfolded as follows. The 27th British Regiment, comprised of all of the groups mentioned above, established blocking positions in the Kapyong Valley, which is when an army blocks off an important pathway. Then, the Chinese launched a massive night assault, overwhelming UN positions. The 5 companies of US and British soldiers stupidly fled the battlefield in confusion, fearing an imminent breakthrough. The Australians held firm on Hill 504, fighting fiercely before withdrawing to a reserve position near brigade headquarters. After that, the Chinese turned their attention to the Canadians, stuck on Hill 677, encircled, with no possibility of resupply or retreat. The Canadians were ordered to hold their ground. During the night of 24 to 25th of April, the Canadians held their ground against repeated waves of massive Chinese attacks, inflicting heavy casualties. By the morning of 26th of April, the Chinese forces, having suffered enormous losses, were forced to retreat. This battle prevented a Chinese breakthrough towards Seoul and became one of the crucial moments in the Korean War. The actions of both the Royal Australian Regiment and Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry earned them international recognition and battle honors. If it were not for them, South Korea would have probably fallen, and we would have lived in a completely different world. And with that, we've reached the end. But before you go, remember this. War isn't just about numbers. It's about leadership, strategy, and sometimes pure luck. From Khalid ibn al-Walid's brilliant reorganization at Mu'tah, to Austria's disastrous destruction at Caransebes, and the desperate last stand at Kapyong. These battles prove that victory isn't always about who has the bigger army, but who plays the smarter game. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.